I'm Joe.
I'm Jimmy. This is What's on the Table. This time, Luke's not with us right now. Well, yeah, he's with us, but he's being the cameraman. But mainly because, we're talking about D&D today. Specifically, we're talking about the new book that just came out, the Mythic Odyssey of Theros. So, and I specifically got the special cover, which looks gorgeous. Don't you agree? It's amazing. But the reason why we're going to talk, I have Joe here specifically, is because Joe is a man who got me into D&D in the first place, and he is a long-term veteran. Although he's still learning more stuff about 5e, he's not super knowledgeable in 5e. That's where I come in, because that's where I started DMing only in 5e. I don't really know a whole lot about 5e, and so therefore I'm the veteran 5e DM. So
what, 5 books since I stopped?
Yeah, it's at least a lot.
Not more.
Not more, yeah.
Well, books actually are for supplemental things, not like modules. So we're hearing about Mythic Odysseys of Theros and what the book is and what the whole point of it is. So in the world of Magic the Gathering, aka another Wizards product, which we have shown on this channel, there's multiple places in this universe. They're called planes. Individual planes have different ecosystems and stories and kind of themes of what makes the plane unique. The one thing about Theros, Theros is pretty much Greek mythology in Magic the Gathering world. But it takes its own twists and unique things on it. Like the character that is similar, as in he's the king of the elite head of the gods in this world, is not a super man whore. He's not a man whore. He's not a man whore just sticking his dick in anything that he wants to. Although he still is a dick, but he's a lawful good character in this one.
Go dick.
Yeah, but it's really fascinating. So we're just kind of going to go over this, and one thing I want to talk about is look at that. Look at these stone artworks right here. It's like little what would you call these? I'm trying to remember what they're called.
Statuettes.
Statuettes, yeah. The statuettes just showing off like great battles and heroic deeds done by mighty heroes. And similar to Greek mythology, what would a plane based off that be? A world based off Greek mythology. What would it be without mighty heroes? That's a common trope between Greek mythology.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a huge thing, and so I've kind of gone over this already a bit through this book. Not entirely, but I've gone through a decent amount of it already because it's mine. And Joe is kind of going into this kind of blind, a little fresh, a little wet feet, no wet feet. So we're gonna get his feet wet into this this book. So the first thing is about this. As I said, heroes. You're heroic. So already in D&D, you can build your character with DM's approval to be starting off pretty powerful and pretty like set up to be like maybe the main character of a campaign. Because contrary to popular belief, a lot of times when you're DMing, you pick a player who's kind of the main character.
It honestly depends.
It does depend, but there's always generally
a favorite.
I've played games as a DM where everybody thinks that one player is the hero, but in truth I'm talking to them in the background like, you're about to die. And they're like, oh.
But even still, you have an idea of who you want your main characters to be. Who you want the more attention to be on. Who you want the attention to be on. And main characters can change.
Yeah.
That's actually a thing in a lot of Greek tragedy. The main character changing because he dies and someone else takes his place.
I mean, the campaign that I got you into D&D in, y'all were fearful for your lives the entire time.
And somehow I end up being the main character. I don't know how, but I did.
You sang your way in that place.
Yeah. So with that being said, what this thing has, the starting part about this book, it shows off the supernatural gifts. These are things that just separate you from the normal person, even the normal adventurer. This sets you apart as you are destined for something great. So the first supernatural gift you can get is called the Anvil Rot. This is pretty much allowing you to play a Warforge, a magical version of a Warforge in the world around the Theros. So I'm a human. You pick your race, but then you say, "Oh no, I'm an Anvil Rot." which pretty much gives you the following. You have advantage on saving throws against being poisoned. You're resistant to poison damage. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. You're immune to disease. You don't have to sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. You don't. You take a 6-hour inactive, motionless mode, which is your sentry's rest, and you just kind of you sit there just looking, watching.
It's just a lobotomite.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, this is what Warforged is without the race. It's just you pick your race and they go, oh, I'm pretty much a Warforged in this game. Yeah, at least for Theros, which that's pretty good in my mind. Heroic Destiny allows you to defy death. You have advantage against death saving throws. You're hard to kill, which means whenever your health reduces to 0, you're not killed outright. You can drop it to 1 instead. You can use this once per long rest. So this, like, oh, I am destined for greatness. I can't die here. I am destined for something more. So it is insane. But once again, this is for a world full of insane and powerful creatures and enemies and fighting gods. You're fighting gods in this, effectively. It's how you can build this up to be. The iconoclasts are pretty much people who say, I reject the gods. I recognize they exist, but I'm not going to follow any of them. So they have certain abilities that and they get certain spells that allow them to that go in tandem with that, such as like dispel magic, dispel good and evil, and anti-magic field at certain levels. And actually, by the time they hit 11th level, when they cast dispel magic, it becomes a 4th level spell. And at 17th level, when they cast dispel magic, it's cast at 5th level.
They go, oh, your god gave you gifts. That's
yeah, dispel it. The inscrutable. The inscrutable are people who are blessed by certain gods, were more than likely it was a gift or training from a sphinx. Which this is, I think, really strong. It makes you resistant to psychic damage, which is very rare.
Yeah,
it's incredibly rare to be resistant to psychic damage.
It's also incredibly rare to run into psychic. It would be good again in a mind flayer campaign.
Oh yeah. You're also immune to any effect that allows other creatures to sense your emotions or read your thoughts. Insight checks made to ascertain your intentions or sincerity at disadvantage. So the reason why this is kind of a thing here in Theros is because gods are pretty proactive in this world. They're not always with the people. They're up in the clouds, but they have tons. They have their champions, their chosen warriors, their acolytes, their clerics, all that stuff. And so sometimes you just don't want to have a god just read into your mind all of a sudden. Sometimes you want to have some alone time. The next one is Lifelong Companion. It is like many Greek myths. What was it? The Odyssey, which was it was Odysseus and all of his friends trying to survive all these trials, and only Odysseus ended up surviving. But there are a lot of Greek stuff in Greek mythos, and also just in Greek history about soldiers working together, like that brothers in arms. That was a common trait. Mm-hmm. So Lifelong Companion kind of resembles that, where it makes you able to allow your allies to resist being frightened or charmed, and you can protect them. You can attempt to protect them and deflect attacks. The Nyxborn are pretty much. Actually, let me explain the Nyx. So the Nyx is the place of. It's kind of like Tartarus, effectively. It's the place of space where magical creatures are born. So the Nyx is where the gods were born from, and all the magical creatures of the realm came from.
Yeah, I did read up on the
little bit of that.
Planeswalkers, the one to Nyx.
Yeah, Elspeth probably is one of them.
Yeah, Elspeth and
Johnny. Yeah. So the Nyxborn are those who are made of the Nyx. They're mortal in shape, but they're different. Yeah. So they have an ability called Cloak of Stars. As an action, you wrap yourself in a starry cloak, and you resemble the night sky. When you do, attack rolls have disadvantage on you and this lasts a whole minute. So for a full minute, attack rolls just have disadvantage on you. So even if you're surrounded, they just neutralizes it. But once again, this is designed for a campaign that's not supposed to be easy. It's definitely it's not. And if you do a campaign on Theros, you can make it where it's for a bunch of new players. You could if you're an experienced DM. But this, I feel like the campaigns that you can build from this will definitely be something you want veteran players to do, because this will be not an easy. Even with any of these gifts, this will not be easy. Then also another thing about the Nyxborn is they're resistant to necrotic and radiant. So we were talking today about, well, imagine if you're a tiefling, if your base race was tiefling and you became Nyxborn. Resistance to fire, necrotic, and radiant right off the bat.
I'd become frustrated.
Yeah, but
as a DM, I would be extremely
now,
frustrated.
thankfully, tieflings are not technically allowed in Theros. I'll get into that in a minute about the races. Oracle is another gift, and Oracle is pretty much you get to ascertain and gain some powers from the gods, but not a particular god. So you don't have to worship one god. It's you channel kind of the power of the gods as a oracle would. So you have stuff like you can cast divination as a ritual once per day. You can cast commune once a day. Stuff like that. It definitely gets to a certain interesting thing. The next is pious. This pretty much just how faithful are you. It allows you to get some certain bonuses pertaining to your god, and also you started off with 3 piety, which I'll get to that piety in just one moment. Unscarred. It pretty much allows you to become Achilles. When you take damage, you can use your reaction to roll a d12 and add your Constitution modifier to what you roll, reduce the damage by that total. You can use this once for short or long rest. Once again, you just become Achilles.
Yeah, that's a good life-saving moment right there.
Yeah. Where a blade should kill you, it just bounces off your chest harmlessly. So
That's not bad.
So the piety thing, one thing I was disappointed in this book, I was hoping they're going to put the stats of the gods in this book, because I wanted to gauge how to build gods. But they didn't, and it's kind of sad. But what they did do is they had developed a system to emulate devotion. So that way you could, because the one thing I've always had an issue with is, most of the time, if you want to be super devout, have your character be super devout, and it actually means something in the campaign, you generally have to be a paladin, a cleric, possibly a druid, or that one subclass of warlock. Where, other than that, generally your faith in a certain god has nothing to do with what your character can do. Generally. Unless your DM makes something special, but generally it's like if I want to be a fighter, ranger, but I worship a sun god, I don't get anything that helps me out in any situation other than, oh yeah, he knows about the sun god, but that's it. I'm getting nothing special for being a pious person.
Yeah.
In this, what they did is they developed a piety system. How pious are you? And when you do certain acts that appease your god, you'll gain a point in piety. And once you gain certain points in piety, you'll actually you'll get certain abilities. Like the Oracle right here. Once your piety is 3 or higher, you can cast Augury as a ritual once per long rest. So, but all the gods, the 15 gods of Theros, have a piety system, and they all at the cap of it is always 50 piety or more. You just get a +2 in one of 2 stats that correspond with the god. So, and that is not cap out at 20. This can actually push you beyond 20. Unlike ability score improvements, which cap out your stats at 20. So at pious, it makes you start off with a 3 of whatever your chosen god was. So that can be pretty cool depending upon which god you serve. So as I said a moment ago, tieflings aren't technically allowed in Theros. I mean, you're a DM, you can do whatever you want. It's your world. But technically speaking, the native races of Theros are humans, centaurs, leonin, minotaurs, satyrs, and tritons. If you notice, 3 of those are new races. 3 of those are brand new races, at least brief races. brand new playable races to D&D.
The Leonin, the Tritons, and...
Well, the Tritons have been ever since the Volo Sky to Monsters. The Centaurs have not been a playable race in 5e until now.
I was going to say, but you also got to remember that I let you guys pick some stupid stuff.
Well, yes. Leonin, Satyrs, and Centaurs were not official playable races in 5e until just now. So we're going to get into that. Humans are pretty much humans. There's nothing special. There's a lot special about them, but there's nothing, crazy about humans here in Theros.
Different.
Yeah. Centaurs. This is going to be fun. So Centaurs, they immediately get +2 to strength and +1 wisdom.
Nothing like a mount that can use a sword.
So they will also their size. Look at their size. Their base size is 6 feet, and they get a 1d10 to their height as a modifier, and their base weighs 600 pounds plus 2d12 times the size modifier. So they get pretty thick.
As a chunky boy.
Their base walking speed's 40 feet. Can you imagine a monk centaur? Just run around, rolling around at the speed of sound.
Oh no.
You imagine how fast that would be?
Think about a centaur barbarian in the middle of rage.
Ooh, that's also terrifying too. Actually, because moving 50 feet a turn, just cutting down everything in his path. Especially with, also they're Fae. They're not humanoid. Makes sense. But speaking of what I was saying, when a barbarian charging around, you get charged. So if you move 30 feet in a straight line from one towards a target and you hit it with a melee weapon attack on the same turn, you immediately, as a bonus action, can hit him with your hooves. Your hooves are unarmed strikes that deal 1d4 bludgeoning damage plus strength. That's pretty good early on.
Yeah.
Later on, not so good. Can be helpful in certain situations, but early on, it's really strong. Equine build. They are considered one size larger when they're determining carrying capacity and/or when they're pushing or dragging things, which makes sense. They're got horse bodies.
I can just picture a centaur on the team pushing a cart.
Pulling a cart.
He's like, why? Why? This is always my job.
Yes. Well, you're the best at it. Damn right I am. Next up. So, did you want your tabaxi to be thick? Did you want your tabaxi to be super thick and be able to rip off skulls? Well, this is what Leonin is. Oh, I forgot to show you guys. I forgot to show you the centaurs.
It's a giant.
I forgot to show you the centaurs. So, yeah. So it just looks good. And now let's go to the thick cats. It's gonna be great. So the Leonins start off with a +2 to con and +1 to strength. Very different than Tabaxi. They tend to be lawful good. Their base starting height is 5'6", but they get 2d10 for their modifier.
That's not bad.
For their height modifier. They're also their weight is 180 pounds plus 2d6 times your size modifier. I did a test roll just to gauge. I did 2 test rolls to gauge just a Leonin size. The first roll was pretty low and ended up being a 5'10" Leonin who was about 215 pounds. So that's one of the smaller ones.
Wow. And
the second roll was a 6'9" Leonin who's 315 pounds. I just want you to imagine, because remember, in Greek mythology, not in Greek mythology, in Greek history, when armies would come to fight each other, they'd send their best warriors out to fight, so that way the armies wouldn't be wasted. Their best would go out and fight each other in single combat. Could you imagine you're going out, say you're like 6'4", and you're 240 pounds, and you've been training all your fighting all your life. You walk out, like, I am the best warrior of whatever town you're from, and then you walk, and then the other enemy, and this 6'9" giant lion person comes out, and he's just rippling muscle, just this big old spear and a long sword and a great sword in their hand.
Holding a sword heavier than you.
Yeah, this giant great sword and this long spear, just walking out towards you, and you're like, oh my gout, it's acting up again, guys. Get the second in. I can't do it today. I'll definitely lose.
Hemorrhoids.
He can. The second he can handle him. I believe him. Like you're not gonna fight that. Look at those teeth. He just walks up and she's like, you're like, nope. So, speaking of speed, their walking speed's 35 feet.
That's not bad.
They have dark vision.
Yeah.
If they make unarmed attacks, their claws are natural weapons.
Which makes sense.
1d4 plus strength modifier, slashing damage.
Alright.
Hunter's instincts. They get athletics, intimidation, perception, or survival. One of them. The centaurs also got something, but I kind of skipped over it. Daunting roar. As a bonus action, they can let off a menacing roar. Creatures of your choice within 10 feet of you must succeed a wisdom saving throw or be frightened until the end of next turn. The DC is equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your constitution modifier.
So a lot like...
Let's say you're a level 3 Leonin. You probably have at least around 16 constitution, right? Because constitution is an important part of being a Leonin.
Yeah.
So that means at level 3, you have a 13. They have a 13 spell save DC to make against this. To not be frightened by this. And how many enemies, especially early on, have no wisdom modifier or even a negative wisdom modifier?
The majority of them, unless you're facing a
But-
small boss.
Yeah, but even then, a lot of them just have a 0. They have no bonus. Like wisdom is not high wisdom is not common amongst creatures in the monster manual until later in game, mid to late game.
Yeah.
Even then, you will still find a lot of smaller guys who have no bonus to wisdom. So this can be extremely potent, especially because it's once per short or long rest. Guys, I'm gonna take an hour nap. All right. Scared.
There's just a Leonin sleeping on the battlefield.
Yeah.
What's his problem? Don't wake him.
we need him for. We need him. Well, Lord. Well, once he wakes up, lure the enemies to him. What? Trust me, it works.
Jimmy, think about the barbarian bard that you had as a Leonin.
Oh God, it'd be amazing. So speaking of my old bard barbarian, Minotaurs, they've been a part of the game. They were officially introduced in the 5e in the Ravnica book, which I did a campaign on. But there's nothing changed from that book to this one, so I'm not really going to go over it. Minotaurs are really fun. Obviously, very strength-based build, similar to the Leonin. Although Minotaurs, specifically in the world of Magic the Gathering, are naturally, at least the playable ones, are a lot smaller than the ones you find in giant and old labyrinths that you fight. Because those are generally like anywhere from like 10 to 13 feet tall. While here, they're generally around like at their shortest about 5'6", at their tallest about just under. They're around 6'8" at their tallest. So they're not super big in the world of Magic the Gathering.
Lose some height, gain some intelligence.
Gain a lot of intelligence. Satyrs. This is a brand new race for 5e, and you're gonna like this race a lot.
Josh would have liked this race a lot.
So Satyrs get +2 to Charisma and +1 to Dex. They're relatively normal size comparatively to humans. They have a speed of 35. Pretty common so far. We've seen 35 speed for a lot of these things.
I mean, a lot of these creatures are...
They're animalistic, therefore they're more fast than us. They're made for running better than we humans are. They're considered fey, just like the centaurs. They have a ram, so after they can use their horns on their head to make a bludgeoning attack for 1d4 plus strength. They have magic resistance. They have advantage on all saving throws against spells and other magical effects. That's really
That's
good.
not bad. Well, I mean, you kind of got to when you're always running around drunk.
Yeah. Mirthful leaps. Whenever you make a long or high jump, you can roll a d8, add that number you rolled to the number of feet you can cover, and yeah.
Wow. That's not bad.
So the other races you saw got like here's 4 different things you can pick from, as in like skill proficiencies. Satyrs. Ooh. Satyrs get proficiency in performance and persuasion and one musical instrument of your choice. They just get that.
So they're a natural bard.
Yeah. And I'm going to show some satyr action here. Great. Alright.
So then you just stack Bard on top of them, and then they're just a walking band.
Exactly. One-man band. Well, imagine it's like he's got the actual one-man band. Just a satyr carrying a one-man.
Is that a satyr with a war drum and a lute? Oh, it's him.
Wait, what's that thing? What's that thing like hanging down? Oh, that's what it is. Tritons. They're not new. They were introduced into Volos Guided Monsters, but there is something they did change in for at least the Theros Tritons. Everything's pretty much the same overall. I did a comparison the other day, except Tritons and Theros have dark vision, which made sense for them to have. They go into the depths of the ocean. They should have dark vision, but everything else was pretty much the same as I went over. They just get dark vision, which is better comparatively what they once had. And so I was looking at the spell Wall of Water, and I was thinking of some great combat-based things you can do with this, like build a. Long story short, if Wall of Water can either make a big long wall, or it can make a kind of a circular little fort, effectively a ringed wall.
It's not bad.
Now, if a cold damage spell hits it, it freezes the section that gets hit by it. So I ran up the idea of, well, what if your DM allows your Storm Sorcerer to actually mildly control weather in his area, or not control, mildly manipulate the weather in his area, you could say, oh, Triton makes the Wall of Water. Storm Sorcerer casts Ice Storm, makes it only hit the wall. And therefore, the wall freezes solid. Then you have your Wizard cast Move Earth to push up the Earth so you can go climb up on top of up towards the ice wall. Have a makeshift little fortress out of nowhere. Will fight off enemies. I was just playing around with the idea, like, that'd be dumb. It'd be cool, though.
The other thing I could picture is like a Warlock Triton with all of the electrical spells that they have, and then you Wall of Water at somebody, and then strike an electrical spell.
That'd be pretty handy.
As a DM, I would give you a boost.
Yeah, and that's something that's up to DM. But that's the fun thing about D&D is that you can have very different experiences with different DMs.
Yeah.
It's all because every little interaction is dependent upon the DM. So if you ever have a question like, hey, it doesn't work normally, ask your DM. Ask him if you have a question. Like, hey, how does this work in your world? Because everyone does things differently.
Yeah.
So next, we have two new subclasses. The College of Eloquence and the Oath of Glory. College of Eloquence is for bards, Oath of Glory is for paladin. Are you ready to see the most support class version of a bard ever? Alright, bard. So like with most subclasses, not all, but most subclasses, level 3, you hit bard, you get this you get the subclass call. You can choose the subclass College of Eloquence. Silver Tongue. This happens at level 3. When you make a Charisma, Persuasion, or Charisma Deception check, you can treat the roll of the d20 of a 9 or lower as a 10. Base Bard, level 3, you will have at least a +5 bare minimum to your Deception and Charisma Persuasion, which you actually can boost due to different bardic feats. You can actually boost that, like just expertise and the various different bard abilities that a bunch of proficiencies. So, at bare minimum, you can't at level a third level bard. If you have at least a 16 charisma, you can't roll below a 15 when you're persuading or deception checking.
That's not bad.
That's
At all.
it's dumb. Next is Unsettling Words. As a bonus action, you can expend one of your bardic inspiration dice. Choose a creature within 60 feet of you. You roll the inspiration dice, and that creature must subtract its number that it rolled from its next saving throw before your next turn starts. So, AKA, you tell
so you're shouting, "Don't mess up."
Yes, exactly. or as me and Luke were talking about, you just imagine the boss. He's like he's like, hey, you're gonna have a fireball next turn right after me? Yeah. Hey, you ogre, you ain't shit. The ogre's just like, what if I'm not? And a fireball.
Having even remotely thought of your bard, like,
yeah,
all I can picture is how many allies you would have gotten off of
just saying
those two alone.
Oh yeah, it gets better. At level 6, there are 2 more features you get for Bard for the College of Eloquence. Your inspiring words are so persuasive, others feel driven to succeed. When a creature adds a Bardic Inspiration die for whatever thing it does, if the roll still fails, they keep the Bardic Inspiration die. Yes, it's dumb. It gets worse. Universal speech. This is not the really dumb part, but this is good. You can pick a number of creatures within 60 feet of you up to your charisma modifier. And they can magically understand you for an hour, regardless of the languages you speak.
That's not bad.
This is once per long rest. This is actually a very fair and very useful ability. Level 14. You get level 14 Bard here. You successfully inspire someone. The power of your eloquence can now spread to someone else. When a creature within 60 feet of you uses one of your Bardic Inspiration dice to one of its things it normally does, you can use your reaction to encourage a different creature other than yourself to also get a Bardic Inspiration die without expending your Bardic Inspiration dice uses. So you get 5. So at 14th level, you should have a +5 charisma, which means you're getting 10 Bardic Inspiration dice now per long rest.
And you get a die.
Because you can use this as many times up to your charisma modifier. And it uses your reaction, but still, using your reaction to just give 10 different reactions, 10 different Bardic Inspiration dice, which if they fail, they keep it. How dumb is this? This is I legitimately this worries me as a DM if someone wants to play this class, because I can't go like, oh, it's not in a book. It is in a book. I can't say it's like in another Arcana or something else. It's a legitimate.
Yeah,
this is gonna be such a. Now the only upside I have to is the only thing that doesn't bother me about this is that there's nothing here for combat.
absolutely.
This is pure support class, but this is the best support class of Bard. If a Bard wants to be pure support, this is the best. This is the class to go to. This is so powerful.
All I can picture is Luke. That video of the Civil War reenactment where they're all drumming, and then there's the one guy in the background just like. That's this.
All right, so.